Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second segment, episode 207 of Sold with Updike Pugh. I'm Jeff Updike.
I'm Weston Pugh, and today, even though it's cold, we're going to talk about plan ahead and plant a tree. Because it's important. This is the time of year to do it, and it's so funny because I think about the couple of houses that I owned, and I thought, I'm going to put a tree in there. Well, that first house, I was in there for 14 years. If I would have put one of these trees in, can you imagine how much more it would have been? And the other thing, too, plant them when they're little.
Absolutely. And get some advice and guidance about how it's going to affect the other things in your lawn as it grows up.
Yep.
In terms of shade. Is it going to provide shade to your home, which is a great energy efficiency feature? There's just a plan ahead.
Plan ahead. So we actually reached out to Patrick Dickinson, and he is one of the co-owners of Rooted In, and asked him to help us if he had to pick the trees, what would he use? And so he broke it down into the first category was going to be shade trees, and I think that's such an important thing. And his number one pick was the red oak. And I love the red oaks. First time I ever saw them was in San Antonio. These trees are really great, and this year they really showed off in the fall that we had just recently, and they stay brilliantly red.
They really did. It was absolutely beautiful fall in Texas this year. The second tree that he recommended was the live oak. I'm just beautiful.
So this is a really interesting tree, and when it gets manicured, I think it's amazing. You can see these sometimes in a pasture, and all the animal livestock will be under the tree. But one of the neighborhoods here that we have is, Adrian's condo is in
Montebello.
Montebello has trees like this that are really great. It adds a real kind of like Louisiana style to it at times. Hill country, they are great. Lose their leaves once in the early spring, but they are gorgeous year round. A little bit slow growing.
Yes.
That is one thing to keep in mind. The next thing he did was he switched over and he said, let's talk about evergreens. And so I was like, great, tell us what is your favorite evergreen. And he chose this one, and it's an eastern red cedar. And I get why he chose it because it's very vertical. It's cedar or a juniper. They grow forever. But the deal for me is that because it's cedar in nature, they're going to have pollen if it's a male. And I am highly allergic to that pollen.
Are they deciduous?
What does that mean again?
They don't lose their leaves.
That is correct. They do not lose their leaves.
And the second one he recommended was the Eastern Red Cedar. And this one's really cool. It is, the second one was the Arizona Cypress. My mistake. This is really cool. It's another evergreen tree. It does grow really tall. It can, you were talking about this earlier, about it working really well with crushed granite if you're trying to do some xeriscape.
Yep. I like this one because you don't often get gray-green. There's an agave or two and some palmettos that have this, but this one right here is excellent. It has good shade. It is a great border if you need to have like a living fence between you and a neighbor. This is excellent. It goes with a very minimal yard. Xeriscaping is its friend. You definitely should think about this one. I think it's going to need a strong amount of light, so don't put it in the shade, or I would already have it in my house.
And the third category that Patrick recommended was the ornamental bloomers. And this is a beautiful tree with the Eastern redbud.
I love the redbud. It is a classic. It's about the size of a Japanese maple, not super large. The interesting thing about the redbud is that it loses its flowers come on super early in the spring, and then they're gone. But they are gorgeous when they're here. They're really marking the beginning or the end of winter.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that when I see those, I always feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel.
That we're done with this freezing weather. That's right.
And the last tree is the Texas Mountain Laurel.
Have you ever, we don't have these as much. In San Antonio, they were everywhere, and this is where I first saw them. They grow like crazy, and Zach said that they reminded him of bluebonnets in a tree. I think they look like wisteria in a tree, but whatever. They smell like grape Kool-Aid when they bloom.
Interesting. I can't remember smelling those.
And the craziest thing is the little pod, make little bean pods, and at the end of the year, they get dry and hard, and when you crack them open, the seeds are the most brilliant red you've ever seen. Very interesting. So, well, we hope you found that interesting. We wanted to plan ahead, reach out to Patrick, Rooted In. Their trees are in stock. I don't think fruit trees are quite here yet. And I would say the last thing to remember is that irrigation is just as important as location of the tree. Set up that bubbler. when they tell you don't need a bubbler, that's not correct.
That's not true.
Those young ones need bubblers.
Our friends Dan and David had a tree planted and in their front yard, and it was not a mature tree. It was a very large tree.
Right.
And the people that planted it, that they purchased it from, said that tree had to have 100 gallons of water a day.
Really?
Yeah, for the first several months of it, just to make sure that it actually rooted in well.
So if your tree is not doing well, and it's a newbie, it's probably not getting enough water.
Probably not.
Make that happen.
So hope you enjoyed that. If there's any other topics you'd like us to talk about, give us a shout. All of Patrick's information is going to be in the links below.
And just remember, we want to be realtors for life.
When you're ready to talk real estate, you can reach us online, by phone, or by text at 214-377-2223.
And remember, we want to be realtors for life.